everybody. So this is kind of the theme of what I wanted to talk about today. And ultimately, it's about CX maps and CX mapping for a tool that you can use with your business. So here's kind of what we're going to do today. We're going to cover what CX stands for. We're going to cover what a CX map is. We're going to go through why create one in the first place, cover the certain anatomy pieces of it so you understand the elements, and we're going to try to build one together or get it started so you can take this tool and implement it in your business. So number one, what is CX? Ultimately, it's customer experience. And what we're talking about is interactions, okay? But there's three lenses that I want you to look through. The first one is the journey, meaning it's the moment you talk to them or the moment you start interacting, or is it before that? Is it the moment that they hear from you? All the way through interactions of them buying or them not buying, them getting support, them feeling your services, all the way to the end. It's a cumulative journey. Then there's the touch points, which we all kind of understand, and I couldn't have asked Thad to set up my presentation better because he started talking about some of this stuff, which is awesome. And then there's the environments. There's two environments that we play in now. There's the virtual digital world, and there's the physical real world, and both matter. Then we got to think about the different pieces, right? There's multiple pieces of engagement, and it's not just talking, it's not just writing. There's a lot more that goes into it. So now we start getting into understanding or thinking about the rational, the emotional, the sensorial, the physical, and the spiritual. I get really geeked out when I talk to Dale about psychographics. It's not just understanding people at a demographic, like here's their ages, here's their sex, or whatever. It's like, what do people say? But they say this, but they feel this. They feel this, but they do this. And understanding some of these pieces across a CX map are very important. So what does Forbes say? It's the cumulative impact of multiple interactions. And that's a pretty powerful piece, okay? Because it's not just one contact, it's another and another and another interaction. And they start building, right? So the consistency is part one, but the success of each one builds into like one huge impact. And that can be either positive impact or negative impact. So what is a CX map? Well, a CX map is basically documentation in a visual format that gives you, here are all my touch points across every single value chain in my business. And I talk to a lot of business owners, and they might have it here, but they don't have it written down. And it's hard to educate everyone in your company and have a great culture if you don't have that plan. So it's just these mutual points that you kind of put together. I like talking about golf. I'm a golfer, but there's a little thing that I want to share with you guys. Professional golfers play golf backwards. Did anyone go to the PGA event earlier? Okay. Did you see them practice? When they practice, they show up to the green, and what do? They start hitting balls from all parts of the green because they want to know where to land the ball, where it's going to funnel to, and how fast that trajectory is. Why? Because they care about the green first, meaning if this is where the hole is going to be, I want to putt uphill so I can be aggressive, and I want the putt to be straight. That's their first point. Their second point is, where do I need to land on the fairway so I can hit the right spin, the right trajectory to put the ball in that spot? And then I go to the tee box and go, how far do I have to hit it to get me in that spot? So they play golf backwards because they have intent, okay? They know they have very little margin of error to score really good, so they're trying to maximize every single engagement that they have with that ball. And that's the attitude that I want you to think about when we're talking about CX maps. Okay, so why create them? I talked a little bit about already to document the process. It does give you an aerial view, and then you can start identifying, we're doing bad here, we're doing great here, because it's easier to have a visual chart in front of you. Purpose and intent, we talked about the golf example. Repeatable process, Thad covered that perfectly with 20 minutes, so thank you very much. It also helps onboarding. Think about your teams. You might have the most awesome process in the world, but if they can't hit the ground running because they don't understand your process, what good is it? Helps your branding efforts too. I also get geeked out about talking about branding with Tom Ruich. If you understand psychographics and you understand what your branding stories are and you combine them to hit all these points, you're ahead of 90% of the businesses out there. It's pretty awesome. All right, so let's just identify a couple pieces of a map. So there's stages, there's touch points, there's objectives, and then there's what can be improved. So let's take a look at maybe what one looks like very quickly, okay? The process and the stages: add, research, purchase, delivery, support, and review. This is just some business doing some process charting. But look at the top and bottom. Top part is all the touch points. Here's all the ways that customers interact with that particular process. And beneath the line is all the objectives. So this is where that intent comes from, right? If you know what the process is, and you can kind of gauge what the touch points are, shouldn't you pretty much sit down and be very strategic about what the objectives are and how to maximize every single interaction? Well, it's not just about doing that in silos. It's about looking at this map and having an aerial view of how everything bleeds together, because that's what causes that consistency, and that's what causes the customers go, wow, these people have it figured out, really awesome, okay? So again, stages, pretty easy. This could be any process that you deem. Touch points, those are the interactions of the touch points of what you're doing, and I'll go back to that slide so we can go through that example. And then the objectives that you're actually trying to accomplish. That's kind of the anatomy of a CX map. So let me go back, and here's the kind of little story to kind of thread through needle. So number one, TV ad. Let's say you do some marketing, and you have someone that sees that ad. That's the interaction point. And then from that ad, hopefully you did a great job, say, come to our website to check out the software. So someone's actually interested, they take that next step, they look at the website, they look at the reviews, they engage with the website, and then they request a demo. From that demo, they buy the software, they download the accounts, they actually get information, and it moves into, now I'm interacting with the company. As you interact with the company, there's a problem. Someone submits a support issue. Support takes care of that issue, and then the support people get a recommendation. This is just guidelining or setting a guideline to, this is how this procedure and all these interaction points lead up to engagement. So how awesome it is to, hey, now we have this map. If we have a problem anywhere, we can actually dictate where that is. And this is what the pinpointing looks like. You just say, hey, we're having really bad reviews on support. What's going on? Well, let's just circle that. Let's talk to the support team and kind of move forward. So what I'd like to do is, by the way, if any of you are interested in this stuff, I'll give you a preview of what ours and the ones that I'm doing for Alliance System are, so we can go into more detail. But I'd like you guys to just take a piece of paper, think of something, think of a process, maybe a 3-step process, something simple. It could be as easy as engagement from a social media campaign, sales process, networking meetings. I mean, just pick a topic out there, grab a piece of paper, and just start plotting out a couple points. I'll put the slide back so you can kind of follow the timelines, and maybe you guys can share a little bit, okay? Tell me when we have 5. 6 minutes, right now? All right, everybody, I gave you guys some time to chat. Hopefully you want to keep on talking about this stuff and kind of implementing this stuff. I'll share a little story. Even before or on the previous presentation, we were talking about process. Jim is an excellent person that does networking. And I took some pointers from him, but he was even sharing some of his process this morning, right? And that's what I like about these CX maps. It can be used for the simplest of simplest things. So his process is, before he meets someone to have a cup of coffee or talk, he looks them up on LinkedIn, right? Who they are, what they do, what testimonials they have, who he's mutually connected with, what their education systems are. So he's ready to talk to you because he genuinely cares. Number 2, he's a great listener. So he's not too selfish about learning all about you instead of kind of pushing Alliance technologies and stuff like that, right? And then he's super active about, who do you need to meet? I have a great networking group, so who can I point you in touch with? Then he follows up with people multiple times. That entire thing can be a CX map for best practice for networking. So it doesn't have to be this huge conglomerate process that's just whatever. You can break down your daily tasks to do what you have to do. So would anyone like to volunteer and share maybe a couple of steps or a couple of highlights on how you'd start a map? Anybody? I'll put you on the spot if you don't. All right. Oh, Lori's a hot topic today, so.
Okay. All right. So what we started with was we just discussed as a group the networking. So we just kind of started off, and for me, I have to make it a point that I'm going to concentrate on meeting new people because I tend to be, although you guys probably would disagree, more shy. It's out of my element to do the one-on-one networking. I can give presentations all day long. So for me, I have to start with my goal of I need to make sure I'm meeting a couple of new people at every meeting. And then from there, it's identifying and kind of doing the research. Glenda had made that a point that research that person to see what kind of a fit beyond that initial meeting. And then I like to do a one-on-one follow-up if they seem to be a good fit with my psychographic profile. We have common target clientele. Then it might be that we are a really good referral source for each other, and I would like to do a one-on-one meeting. So those were kind of our initial touch points that we came up with.
Awesome. Anybody else? And by the way, to piggyback on that, the follow-up sequence, we always talk about follow-up mechanisms. You can really think about the strategy of how do I follow up? When do I follow up? All right, time is up. Sorry, but do I have any questions? Can I answer any questions really quick? Karen? Absolutely. Anybody who's interested, come to me, get a business card. I'll happily share all this. I have more templates and things that you can use, so if you're interested, I'll give you a lot more details. Will?
Cesar, so as a marketing guy, I'm used to the first half of this, right? The sales funnel. We draw it all the time, try to get people in, get their attention, get them to convert. But then we just kind of don't do anything else, right? Because we've done what we needed to do. So how do you share this with your entire organization so that everybody knows their place along the map?
Great point. So I showed you one set of a system, right? Or one procedure. This is one process. But I kind of refer to value chain, right? There's sales, or there might be marketing before sales. Then what happens when you sell it? Well, this is the onboarding of creating a client. And there's teams to deal with that. Then there's here we're going to actually deliver the service. So for us, it's web development, right? So here's the things that we have to plan. Here's what's going to happen. We have touch points every single week. We deliver designs, reviews, revisions. It's the whole, however you deliver your product, that could be a whole nother phase. When you're done with the project, you think it stops there. It actually doesn't. Well, now we got to train you on the systems. We got to train you on our education. We got to training. We got to educate you a little bit more. All those engagements. Well, what happens after that? Well, what if they're like, man, I'm going to give you a referral? Well, it starts all over. Eventually, this is just a big loop, right? So you can include as many teams and as many people and just try to think about your business as an entire view instead of just segments. And when you have that aerial view, now you can go to all those team managers or people in charge and go, hey, this connects the dots with that. We got to improve both sides, not just one. And that's where the value is. Good question. Bill?
So Cesar, you have like a PhD in this stuff, right? I mean, you're like way out here. So pretend for a minute that I'm just a grade school person trying to figure all this out. Where do I start? Where can I start? I kind of get it, but where would you recommend that I get started?
I would start with personal tasks. Just use this as self-management, right? We talked about an excellent example today, just networking. So if you have to do networking, what gets me motivated to network? In fact, I implemented this for myself at Alliance. I literally, you can talk to Jim about it, I have a running weekly task called 10 for 10 contacts. I try to meet and connect with 10 people every single week to hit my quotas, hit my people, so I know from start to finish, on Friday, I've met my 10 goals, but I've planned out every engagement to make sure I give you the best of my time and I have good intent. So make it small personal goals, build your little timelines, and as you get better and better at it, start breaking into your team sessions and whatnot and try to develop a better process.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John.
Cesar, quick question. As a general rule of thumb, how many touch points do you need to reach a new client in these days right now?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I honestly don't know because there are so many changes. But what I tell you is make it enough to where you can actually do a great job. Or you have to start hiring. That's more of a business strategy, like growth question, right? It's like, If you can't if you have like, this is the touch points that I need to really truly do a good job, and let's say that that's 150. You're like, I can't do that. That's too much. Well, then you better find automations or people or help. So use that as a gauge. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about best practices on sales.
Yeah, Cesar, one of the things I like to see at the back end of a map like this is, and I think something that's overlooked a lot, is spending some time with the customer and figuring out where they're headed, what their next things are, because then we can position ourselves to be the provider for that. Because we can typically see farther down the road than most of our customers can, and we see how things are evolving in the direction they're taking. So building that into the map to spend some time with them to kind of explore where they're going, what they're doing, and being able to anticipate their needs and position yourself to provide them, I think is an important element.
That's very true. I mean, in software development systems, I mean, when we design software, we use these tools because there's so many interaction points of how to use software, right? So this gives us a real big map because people don't read. If we wrote all this in paragraph format, I mean, no one would read it. But from there, to Dale's point, we can kind of move that into, okay, what if you get good enough to like start drawing these out and you share this with your customer? This is what I see outside of the ropes, and here's the points that you need for help. And now you can inject good faith networking on, let me introduce you to all these people that can help you with these pieces. That becomes a powerful tool. Time is up all, so thank you very much. Appreciated the presentation.